You know, one of the main things that we have been seeing out of this Trump administration is that they are just going around and canceling federal funding that they don't like, whether it be tied to DEI, whether it be tied to the environment, or whether it was just something that Joe Biden was able to get accomplished that Donald Trump just simply doesn't like. And over these past couple of weeks or so, we have been having budget conversations over on Capitol Hill. So many of these Trump administration officials have been asked about why this money isn't being spent the way that Congress has designated it to be spent. And I want to go ahead and take a look at this conversation between John Ossoff and Lee Zeldin, because I really think it shows just a perfect microcosm of what is going on in Washington, D.C. right now. On the one hand, you've got Lee Zeldin, who is the administrator for the EPA in the Trump administration. He just looks like an incompetent buffoon. And then on the other hand, you've got John Ossoff, and he actually demonstrates what good governance could actually look like. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video, and I'm going to go ahead and pause it along the way. It is a little bit of a longer video, but if you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for convening the hearing. Administrator, good to see you and welcome.
Thank you.
Administrator, are you familiar with Thomasville, Georgia?
I don't know. I've been in a lot of parts of Georgia. I was just in Georgia about a week and a half ago.
Thomasville's in southwest Georgia. It is a great town known for Southern hospitality, great people, Mayor Mobley, Pastor Rich. There's a lot of agricultural activity around there. There's also a history, a legacy of heavy industry that has led to significant air pollution. And there remain significant concerns about air pollution, specifically particulate matter 2.5, and reported high levels of leukemia and pneumonia.
So I just want to pause it there for just 1 second, because I think this is a perfect way to address a specific issue in a reasonable way, right? He mentions a few towns that are in this district, in his district. He's talking about how he's got a history of industry there, and therefore you've got this particular particle or subparticle or whatever he just said. He's just very specific, right? And it's causing, that particular particle is causing issues in this district. He's setting up like the problem that was addressed through some of this funding. I think this is a perfect way to go about this. He's very clear, he's very concise, and I think this is what we need to see more of in Washington, D.C.
In and around Thomasville. And as you know, oftentimes these rural communities don't get the love and attention of the federal government. They can be forgotten. In Georgia, big cities tend to get a lot of the federal support. So there was great news for the good people of Thomasville last year when they won an EPA grant to help build a new health clinic, rehabbing the gym in the school to build a new federally qualified health center near 3 daycare centers, as well as to upgrade wastewater infrastructure.
So now he's establishing the problem or the grant that was going to help solve the problem, right? So what he's talking about is the Inflation Reduction Act had a whole bunch of spending for all of these different upgrades throughout the country. And Thomasville, this town or city in Georgia, they were actually, I think, of 4% of people who were approved, they were one of the cities that actually got approved for this grant. And it was going to go towards updating their infrastructure, because all of these different problems that had been caused by industry in times past, and now we've got the EPA coming through with this big federal grant, about $19.8 million, that was going to help out this community tremendously. So now he pointed out the problem. Now he is telling you how the EPA grant was going to help solve that problem, and let's go ahead and continue.
Earl Williams, who leads the Thomasville Community Development Corporation, called the grant a game changer. Mayor Mobley said the award represented a, quote, transformative opportunity to make vital health and safety improvements. But Administrator, you canceled the grant, and I'd like to know why.
So I'm looking at, this was part of the Environmental and Climate Justice Block Grant Program.
That's right.
So and this gets to an earlier interaction that we had, and Senator Rounds got added as well. When Congress appropriates a block of funding, an administration is going to apply their policy priorities to how that money is going to get spent. A new administration comes in, we still have to spend the appropriated funding unless something changes with
Administrator,
Congress.
with respect,
I just want to pause right here because what he is describing here, it's illegal, okay? We've been over this a lot on the channel. This is called impoundment. You've got the Congress that has appropriated X amount of funds to be spent in a certain way. And now you've got a Trump administration who has come in, who has stopped this funding and said, oh, hold up. Is this in line with our policy priorities? Is this really what we want to be doing? That is illegal. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court time and time again. This is called impoundment. We have laws on the books that are supposed to prevent against this, but because we have a Trump administration that doesn't care about the rule of law, they are just going through and canceling these grants just because they say environmental justice on them or some bullshit like that. Let's go ahead and continue.
I understand the appropriations process. My question is why you canceled this grant. What is it about building a new health clinic and upgrading wastewater infrastructure for my constituents in Thomasville, Georgia, that's inconsistent with administration policy?
So I don't have the full grant in front of me. I only have a top line, which program it came out of. So when a new administration comes in and they apply their policy priorities, President
You're
Trump
repeating
came in-
yourself. My question is why you canceled this grant.
This is exactly what we see out of all of the Trump administration officials. They have these talking points, they have these slogans or these different phrases that you've heard Donald Trump say over and over and over again. And when they are questioned in front of Congress, this is all we get. There is no rationale as to why this administration would cancel this grant in Thomasville, Georgia. There is no good rationale for that. Like John Ossoff is saying here, it's going to update wastewater infrastructure. It's going to create a command center for in case of like heavy emergencies or weather emergencies. So the community at least has a place where they can regroup and handle situations. So there's no good explanation as to why Trump and his administration would want to cancel this grant. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing that they have is their culture war against DEI and their culture war against anything having to do with the environment. These are the boogeymen that the Trump administration is fighting right now, and that is why they are canceling these grants, because it was allotted under a block of money that was supposed to help with the environment. That is why they are canceling this. And notice, too, how John Ossoff is very pointed. I'm wondering why you canceled this grant. No, excuse me, I don't need to know the appropriations process. Why did you cancel this grant? And these people never have any answers.
So when a new administration comes in this case, President Trump put out executive orders as it relates to environmental justice with regards to DEI. I would imagine that if we
What does
looked
this
at
have
more
to do
details,
with, is a new health clinic for Thomasville, Georgia woke?
as I imagine, as we look through the details of the particular program, there must be some aspects of this applying the last administration's priorities on environmental justice.
Here's a
DEI.
community that suffered from air pollution, has a high disease burden as a result. Finally, the federal government comes. They're going to help build a health clinic and upgrade some infrastructure. You canceled the grant. Devastating for the community. Here's what the head of the Community Development Corporation said about your decision to cancel this grant, denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure, a decision you made that hurts my constituents in Thomasville. Here's what he said, quote, "We all worked so hard for this, and we won. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's gone. And it was just a great sense of disappointment. It was almost like I lost a good friend." He sent me another letter, said, quote, "Our community is devastated. You hurt my constituents, and I don't need a civics lesson on the appropriations process or a broad critique of this program. I want to know why you canceled this grant."
I love this. This is perfect. John Ossoff is saying, hey, you hurt my constituents. You haven't provided me any rationale as to why a community health center would need to be canceled based on the new administration priorities. It doesn't make any sense to me. You're hurting my constituents. Can you please give me a reason as to why this particular grant was canceled? And I just love the question he asks there, right? Is a community health center woke? Because that is what this shit boils down to. This administration is not serious. They have these boogeymen like DEI, like woke, like environment. They have no idea what any of these things mean. They have just built these huge boogeymen into their minds. They've riled the MAGA base up to fight against these boogeymen. And now you are hurting constituents in John Ossoff's community because this was allocated under a block of money that said environmental justice. Because this community has one of the higher rates of respiratory disease based on their industry that used to be there. And now we are trying to remedy that situation, make sure that these Georgians are taken care of. Except now you've got a Trump administration just stripping that away because it says, it's trying to address environmental justice. It is a damn shame. And this is not what good governance looks like. So he asks again, at the end of what we just saw here, he's asking again, why did you cancel this grant?
Senator, when you go back to them and ask, well, did you find out why the grant got canceled?
Well, do you know why? I'm asking you. I'm asking you canceled the grant. I don't need to ask them why the grant got canceled because it was your decision. So tell me why you canceled the grant.
You could say I asked the question and then decided to spend the entire 5 minutes cutting him off 8 times in the middle of his first answer, so I was unable to get a full response.
Why don't
Could you imagine if a Democrat did this? Say if Pete Buttigieg came into one of these budget hearings and responded to whoever, pick your favorite Republican. Could you imagine if Pete Buttigieg came in there and kind of spoke like this? Oh, well, you're cutting me off. You didn't even give me a chance to respond. You could just say blah, blah, blah. I mean, how disrespectful. He shows he's unserious. He's not even able to follow the conversation. He has no idea why this grant was canceled. And instead, he can only virtue signal to the MAGA base by pointing out that, oh, it's environment. Oh, it's woke. Oh, it's DEI. And then wants to play the victim. Like, oh, you're not letting me answer. These people are pathetic.
Why don't you answer the question specifically and directly? Why did you cancel this grant? Why are you denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure?
Do you want me to repeat anything that I said?
I want you to actually answer the question with specificity and not give a broad critique of this overall program or a lesson on how the appropriations
If you were listening to anything
works.
that I said, Senator,
okay, you don't have an answer.
Say whatever you want, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Damn. That was good. I really like how John Ossoff was just able to maintain his composure. He was calm, cool, and collected. Can you just give me any specificity as to why this particular grant was canceled? I don't need you to go back to your team. It was Lee Zeldin, the administrator to the APA. You are the one that canceled this grant. Can you give me a reason as to why that happened? John Ossoff didn't get worked up. He wasn't trying to get you in any gotchas. He was just respectful, even though maybe I would welcome a little bit of disrespect to these fascist freaks because they are breaking the law. They are not respecting our processes, our norms, our rule of law. They are impounding funds, which is clearly against the law, and they don't seem to care at all. And so now you've got constituents in John Ossoff's community who are going to be devastated by this because now they don't have access to that $19.8 million that was going to help them build up new infrastructure. That was going to try to address some of the discrepancies or some of the disadvantageous state that they found themselves in because of factories that used to exist there. I mean, it is an absolute shame. It just goes to show you that this administration, they just don't care about the American people. They care about virtue signaling to the MAGA base. They care about fighting this woke goblin or this DEI boogeyman or this environmental justice boogeyman. But when it comes down to actually helping the American people, they don't give a shit. And that's what this really boils down to. And I hope that everybody goes into the 2026 and 2028 elections remembering that this is how the Trump administration is governing. They don't have any answers for anything. They come across as incompetent buffoons. They never have any details to describe as to what actions they are taking. They're just dumb. They come into these meetings, they act all indignant, they act like they're the victim as though they're the ones under attack, while people in Georgia are getting hurt because they wanted to go and virtue signal about environmental justice. I hope that everybody remembers that, and we vote Democrat up and down the ticket. I'm not saying that Democrats are perfect, but when it comes to governing, they are actually serious. When it comes to governing, they can actually get the job done. But Joe Biden passed, what? So much legislation in a very, very divided Congress. They know how to get things done. You might not like every single piece of every single bill, but they show that they are serious in actually governing and actually helping the American people. Donald Trump and his administration, they just care about Donald Trump and consolidating more power for Donald Trump. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys. I thought this was a very powerful exchange between these two sides, and I highly suggest, I will try to remember to link it in the description, because I highly suggest that you go watch this thing the entire way through. It's just moving. It's just really moving how John Ossoff is able to bring a very specific issue with a very specific remedy, and then you've got the Trump administration official just has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. So I'll leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Excuse me. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders this fascist nonsense day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want to see how the Trump administration is just now terrorizing communities with ICE raids gone wrong, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.